If you buy a house in Fairfax County, don't expect your kids to go to that school 10 years from now. We want to bus your kids further because we think that demographic mix is important. But I've warned Langley, sorry, a big chunk is going to get reboundaried. I've already told him that. We have seismic issues across the county, and we know it. It is this board's responsibility to tee this up for the next board. Go out front on the fact that we may have major boundary changes in 10 years.
Alerting the community as gently as we can, because, you know, I'm not sure I want to hear about it for the next 10 years either. But I've warned Langley, sorry, a big chunk is going to get reboundaried. I've already told him that.
One Fairfax needs to be in there because it is the overall guiding principle.
Pausing to make sure that we look through boundaries through a One Fairfax lens.
To make sure that we are honoring with One Fairfax.
How those priorities reflect the One Fairfax.
One Fairfax happened, and I'm superintendent, and I don't believe we've had a One Fairfax lens for the boundary process. Take the spirit of today, which is the One Fairfax lens, some sort of prioritization. Looking at One Fairfax to help guide me, and that was just a broad policy, but it was a policy around equity.
Demographic integration and
with socioeconomic diversity.
Demographic diversity.
Of a focus on equity in each of our schools.
To using program placement as a way to improve diversity. Equity-based scoping and comprehensive discussion about boundaries.
Change the socioeconomic composition of the school.
We may say things like, we want to bus your kids further because we think that demographic mix is important. If you buy a house in Fairfax County, don't expect your kids to go to that school 10 years from now. People who walk into the boundary change meeting and don't even have kids in the school yet, and they want to argue with us about whether or not their house should be boundaried in or out. A young guy who didn't even have kids in the school system yet come to me and say, well, I spent $20,000 more on my house than I would have a block away because it's in this school. And I had to tell him, I said, our responsibility is to do what's best for kids, not to cover your real estate bet by concentrating socioeconomics in that school. A geographic proximity, even though we feel in our hearts like it's very important, it's just not going to be possible anymore in this county that's growing so quickly, where land is so expensive, things are just going to change. And
having Elaine Tolan, my Get to Green cohort partner, and also the director of the Fairfax County Water and Soil District, and also the treasurer, it's really good to see her here as well.
We have a governance committee that works on policy. I don't even know how this policy was developed. There's a massive rewrite of this policy that stripped out that stripped out.
I'm going to stop your time, Ms. Schultz.
So the notion that we would identify a child or the neighborhood that a child lives in and target them for a boundary change based on the color of their skin or the size of their parents' bank account is a frightening prospect on legality alone, considering the amount of legal issues this board has. I don't even understand why we're going here. We're going to consider moving or busing children based on their characteristics instead of delivering to them the services that they need where they are. That should be the role of the board.